What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Faithful Fit Father podcast. This is Shawn, and we're going to continue on with our second episode in the mini series on marriage. I'm getting ready to go out of town and head to another wedding. Super excited. It's another family member, and I'm really looking forward to it. So, thought it was suiting to go ahead and get this one recorded now. But this is episode 9 in total, and the name of it is Modern Love is Broken. Returning to God's design for marriage. So that's the thing. Modern love is broken, and it's not by accident. There's been a plan behind it. Satan and the systems of this world have worked for decades, if not longer, to tear apart what God had originally joined together. So if you weaken the men and confuse the women and divide the family, you can control forever. We've traded covenant for convenience, purpose for pleasure, leadership for ego. But there's good news. If the enemy destroyed it through rebellion, then we can build it back through obedience. Where does it start? Men. Start with you. So I know this podcast is already about men, but it truly does start here. If you're online already, I'm sure you are, listening to this podcast and others out there, there's plenty of things to consume as far as media goes. You can hear perspective from all angles. There's a lot out there to listen. I myself partake in quite a bit of it. And the social media landscape being riddled with it, there's obviously some good stuff and bad. A lot of conservative fringe figures out there that got some great things to offer. You take Andrew Tate, for example, or the Whatever podcast, Fresh and Fit. I've seen it all. I like a good bit of it. A lot of it I don't. But the guy, Andrew Tate, I was gravitated towards him to hear what he had to say for a good bit of time. I believe, like everything, though, you can take a good portion or a small portion, if it's just that, of what there has been said of what has been said by somebody, and leave the rest. That's not worth taking in. But this guy's hated by the left and the right. But a lot of young men turn to him in droves. They follow him. I myself, like I said, listen to him and his perspective on modern men and what he says we should be doing. And I agree with a lot of it. You know, he says we got to take care of ourselves. That's true. We need to strive to be a better version of ourselves. And I definitely believe that. No one's coming to save us. That's certainly true. Sometimes we catch a break, but most of the time we don't. And it's just a grind. We must save ourselves. We need to train our bodies, be in good shape, be smart, read books, make a lot of money, be what they call a high value man. And I agree with all of that. I agree a lot of the perspective that he has on modern culture. However, he definitely gets it wrong in one major area. He tells these young men out there over and over, you need all these fancy cars and you have to have all these women. And that's appealing to young men. It's appealing to old men. That's the thing about lust and pride and coveting. You know, men fall into that very easily. But I'm here to tell you that monogamy is a good thing, despite what you might hear on these podcasts. There's an original design by our Creator to tell young men that they need to run through women and that doesn't matter is a lie. It's disingenuous to these guys. There's no greater calling than to be a father, a husband, a leader of a family that can bring them to Christ, show them the way. It's a beautiful thing. And when he tells these young men this is what they should do, not only is it not fulfilling, but by doing this, they are actually being complicit in destroying the very thing that they truly think they want, or what they claim on these podcasts that they want in a woman. If you want a woman with a low body count, who do you think is making them have a high one? It's not the low value guys not running through them. It's you. Act accordingly. Be the change that you want to see in the world. Not to mention, if you want some information on what the Bible says about all of this, look no further than the richest person in history who had more wives and concubines and fields and vineyards and castles, palace, temple, King Solomon. The fleeting nature of things, including pleasure, wealth, and women, is found in Ecclesiastes 2, 1 through 11. This verse is finished up saying, "Then I looked on all the works that my hands had done, and on the labor in which I had toiled. And indeed, all was vanity and grasping for the wind. There was no profit under the sun." This is definitely not the way. Without Christ, it's hollow. Not to mention, you think you deserve a submissive woman? Why? You can't even submit to Christ. You can't even attempt to put your flesh to death daily. Turn from lust. The red pill, they saw the symptoms, but they missed the sickness. Men aren't failing because we lost dominance. We're failing because we lost obedience. James 1, 22 and 25. It reminds us, be doers of the word, not hearers only. So stop watching other men lead online and start leading your home. The gym builds muscles. Obedience builds legacy. So women, the culture has lied to you, plain and simple. But I get it. Men out there nowadays, even if you wanted to submit, it's hard to submit. Some of the men, most of the men that you may come across, I know I wouldn't want to be on either side of the singles out there nowadays trying to find a man or a wife. It's crazy. Society told you independence is strength and submission is weakness. It told you to be the prize, not the partner. It told you that when men ask, what do you bring to the table? Your reply is, I am the table. And you're all self-proclaimed tens. Delusion. There's no such thing as all tens. With no real value for yourselves except from your body, clicks, likes, hearts, follows, your work ethic, because you're a boss chick. You place so much emphasis on your looks and your style, you can't even seem to articulate what you can actually do for a man if you were as his wife, other than cook and clean. Like you can throw down a recipe from the top of your head that was passed down generationally while baking in a sundress after churning butter. Come on. These men know better. You're all looking for the same 5% of men, if that. The 6 foot tall business owner making 150K or more. Some of you are just out there with the numbers too. $500,000, $1 million. They'll fly you around the world. Most men just ain't that. I mean, like, most all men aren't that. Matter of fact, you're talking about less than 5% of the population. So good luck. Society told you that being a wife and a mother is somehow less. How could this be? God created you to bring life into this world, another human being growing inside of you. This is amazing work. I want you to think about this. For most women, sure, there's some exceptions, but in general, for women today, you go to work, you got to be there at a certain time. You can only take your lunch break at a certain time. You only get a certain amount of breaks in the day. You can't go home until a certain time. If you get sick, you have to get permission to be absent from work. If your children are in school and need you, you have to basically ask to leave to go tend to your own flesh and blood children. And even if you do ask, if it happens too much, you may still get fired anyway. Not only that, you risk being fired no matter what. You have to report to your boss for everything you need when it comes to your money and freedom. And all of this is socially acceptable. Not only acceptable, but encouraged. But God forbid someone say that you should just do this for your husband, your family, instead of doing it for your boss at work, who doesn't care about you. You work for your boss, and it's good. Bad if you work for your family. Not because you have to, but because you should. This is the divine order of things. Let's not forget about social media and the attention seeking, albeit subconsciously sometimes. And you want a man that don't like or follow other women, friends of yours or not, and then complain to him whenever he has something to say about something that he may not like about what you're wearing, either it being too low cut, too high, showing too much, advertising too much, and you respond with, I can do what I want. Who are you to tell me what to do? Do you even respect your man? You don't own me. Satan targeted women not through weakness, but through flattery. He whispered to you, you don't need a man. You can be both. And just like that in the garden, it sounded good, but it led to bondage. And now women are praised for independence, but punished for devotion. They chase career over covenant, applause over peace, and empowerment that leaves them exhausted. Do you really think that having more money on your deathbed at the expense of building a family in your old age is going to make you happier? It makes me think again of Andrew Tate for some reason here, but he was in a room with his 93-year-old grandmother with 70 other people. And he said that whenever they were in that room, no one was asking her how much money she made, what job she had, if she ever had time to go to the club or a festival. No. 70 other people in that room, all because of one woman who dedicated her life to her family and motherhood, the highest calling. 1 Peter 3:3-4 says, do not let your adornment be merely outward, but the hidden person of the heart with the incorruptible beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit. Femininity is not about submission to man. It's submission to God's design. Satan doesn't fear women in boardrooms. He fears them in the prayer rooms. So this all goes back to the garden. Obviously, in Genesis 3:16, when God said, your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. The Hebrew word here, teshuka, tells the story of what changed when sin entered the world. It means a deep driving urge, the same one used one chapter later to describe sin's desire to rule over Cain. Before the fall, Adam and Eve walked in unity under God's design. But after the fall, the harmony fractured. The woman's desire turned toward control, and the man's leadership became a struggle between pride and passivity. But notice the headship itself wasn't a curse, the distortion was. Adam had already been charged with keeping the garden and protecting his wife before sin entered the world. When everything fell apart, God did not call Eve. He called for Adam, because with responsibility comes accountability. Authority flows from responsibility. That's where men today have lost their way. The world says authority is about control, masculinity is toxic, but God says it's about weight. It's about who bears the burden when things go wrong, who steps forward when danger comes, who answers when God calls, "Where are you?" A man's authority over his wife isn't a weapon, it's a shield. It's the instinct to stand in front of danger, to take a hit, to provide stability when the world shakes. You see it when a father loses sleep to work overtime so his children can be fed and safe. You see it when a husband holds his ground morally, even when it's unpopular, and he risks everything for it. You see it when a man says, "No, my family will serve the Lord," and means it. That's real authority, earned through sacrifice. But today, everything's inverted. Men chase comfort instead of calling, and women are told to chase independence instead of rest. The result: homes full of anxiety, resentment, and confusion. Women are exhausted trying to carry the weight they were never meant to bear, not because they're weak, but because this is not their design. When a man steps into his God given role, protector, provider, priest over his home, peace follows. His leadership becomes a covering, not a cage. And the woman's trust becomes strength, not submission out of fear. This is the balance that hell has worked tirelessly to destroy. Because when a home is in order, generations are secured. So, what do we do about it? I'm going to lay out some examples for men and women both on actionable characteristics and traits that both should embody in order to walk the right way to fulfill a covenantal marriage, put Christ first, and have better relationships with their significant others, spouses, or if they're just single men or women looking for someone to potentially marry. What qualities, what traits would be a good thing to find in either? Women, I'm going to start with you first. Number one, a spirit of cooperation, not competition. I mean, don't get offended by some of these and listen through it in its entirety. A godly woman doesn't compete for control. She completes the mission. She understands that submission isn't subservience, it's alignment. Just like a general needs trusted lieutenant, a man needs a woman who believes in his calling and moves with him, not against him. So ask, do I build up or challenge his leadership when things get hard? Number two, emotional stability and discernment. A man can't lead a household anchored to constant chaos. A woman's peace, prayer life, and discernment should be her weapons. Proverbs 14:1. The wise woman builds her house, but the foolish pulls it down with her hands. Cultivate calm under pressure. Respond instead of react. That brings strength to a man's soul. Number three, a nurturing spirit. Now, this isn't weakness, it's a divine design. A godly woman multiplies whatever she's given. A seed becomes a child, a house becomes a home, a meal becomes fellowship, a dream becomes a legacy. She is the multiplier of a man's vision. Look at what you touch. Does it grow, stabilize, or decay under your care? Number four, respect and reverence. Now, this is a big one. Men do not thrive on love the same way women do. They thrive on respect. Ephesians 5:33 commands, "Let the wife see that she respects her husband." That means you have got to honor his effort, not the perfection, trusting his direction even when it's still forming. So you speak to a man's potential, not just his performance. I praise God and give thanks to him all the time for what my wife did when our relationship when it comes to this here. She saw something in me I didn't see in myself early on, and she did nothing but support that since day one. And I thank her for that. Number 5, wisdom in speech. Proverbs 31:26 says, "She opens her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness." A godly woman guards her words because she knows her tongue can either fuel his confidence or pierce his spirit. This is a huge one, too. So practice restraint. Silence and wisdom can speak louder than correction and pride. And a good example of this is if you're in front of anybody and he's telling a story and it's not 100% to the minute detail of how you remember things that are irrelevant to the story, do not correct it. It's going to absolutely wreck the ego, or not ego, that's a terrible word to use, but the spirit, wreck the spirit that he has. Um, and it's just embarrassing. It shows lack of trust in him. Um, Building up your husband with encouragement and belief and faith and trust is it just goes much further than trying to make a correction because you know better or you think you know better. Number 6, purity and loyalty. A man can't lead well if he doubts his woman's loyalty. True femininity carries moral weight. It guards intimacy, protects reputation, and upholds the covenant. Be a woman whose presence restores his focus on God, not one who distracts from it. And number 7, a shared fear in the Lord. At the end of the day, the most beautiful woman is described this way: charm is deceitful and beauty is passing, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Proverbs 31:10. Everything else fades: beauty, charm, talent, but reverence for God endures and multiplies through generations. Men, what do you do? What should you do? Qualities and action that you can take. Number 1, take responsibility fully first. A real man doesn't shift blame or wait to be told what to do. He owns the weight of his home, his choices, and his future. When things go wrong, he looks inward before pointing outward. This is huge. Do not be a victim of anything. More than likely, it is your fault, even if it's not. To have that perspective makes a massive difference. The Lord God called to Adam and said, "Where are you?" Number 2, lead through sacrifice, not control. Authority is earned by laying down your life, not by demanding submission. Leadership is about protection, provision, and guidance, not dominance. Husbands, again, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself for her. Ephesians 5:25. Discipline his flesh. A man ruled by lust, laziness, anger cannot lead well. He must master his body, his impulses, and his emotions. Strength begins with self-control. He who rules his spirit is better than he who takes a city. Proverbs 16:32. Number 4, provides stability financially, emotionally, and spiritually. Provision isn't just money, it's consistency. A man's presence should make those around him feel safe and secure because they know he stands firm. Anyone who does not provide for their own relatives, especially their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Number 5, speak with integrity and authority. His words carry weight because his actions back them up. He doesn't flatter, manipulate, or promise what he won't deliver. He speaks truth in love with conviction. Let your yes be yes and your no, no. Matthew 5:37. Number 6, the man is the spiritual covering of his home. He should pray over his wife and children daily, not just for blessing, but for direction, strength, and protection. The effective, fervent prayer of a righteous man avails much. James 5:16. And again, number 7, walk in the fear of the Lord. Everything flows from this. A man who fears God leads differently, humbly, and reverently. He knows his authority is borrowed, not self made, and he'll answer for how he used it. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Proverbs 9:10. When God looked at man, he said, "It is not good that you should be alone. I will make him a helper corresponding to him." That word doesn't mean less than or beneath. It means one who stands across from him, equal in worth, different in function, perfectly suited to strengthen what he starts. A man was never meant to rule like a tyrant, and a woman was never meant to lead out of frustration. They were designed to move as one. His strength meeting her wisdom, his covering meeting her nurture, his authority meeting her discernment. But since the fall, the unity has been fractured. The man withdrew and the woman took the weight. Now, our culture calls that progress, but it's produced exhaustion and confusion. God's design hasn't changed, only our willingness to walk in it has. A man's calling is to lead, protect, and carry the burden before God. A woman's calling is to multiply, bring peace, and strengthen what he builds. When both step back into those roles, not for power, but for purpose, the home becomes more than shelter. It becomes a fortress and a sanctuary. Because when a man and woman stand together, corresponding yet aligned, they reflect Christ and his bride, a partnership that hell itself cannot overcome. Be the couple, be the couple that proves tradition isn't outdated. It's the foundation. Be the family that shows faith still works. Be the generation that stops the curse. Modern love is broken because we left the one who designed it, but it's not too late to fix it. Return to the blueprint, return to order, return to Him. Until next time, stay faithful, stay fit, and lead with purpose.